Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. My dear students, for your students in the Department of English. Our lecture today is entitled Classroom Management, which represents a very important factor or any aspect in language teaching or in the process of language teaching. Language teaching is a complex task which is influenced by physical, emotional, practical, behavioral, social, and cultural dimensions. In this case, and in the process of language management, the teacher should take into consideration all or most of these factors. When we teach, we should consider the physical atmosphere in which the teaching process is taking place, the emotional atmosphere, the practical aspects of teaching, behavioral aspects including the student's behavior and teacher's behavior, social dimensions such as the social relationship between teacher and the students and among the students, and the cultural dimensions of the language we are learning. So in this case, we should consider such factors in the process of language teaching and specifically during management of the classroom in teaching English as a foreign language. What's meant by classroom management? It can be defined broadly as any action a teacher takes to create an environment that supports and facilitates both academic and social emotional learning. As I have just mentioned that teaching is not about the academic process only or academic achievement only, but also it is related to academic achievement as well as working on students' growth and development. That's why we should not consider the academic aspect only and isolate it from social and emotional aspects. We should take both into consideration. The goal of the teacher is to facilitate students' growth and development and to prepare them for adulthood. This means that teachers' focus should be on academic achievement and skills building as well as on students' growth and development. That's why we should take into consideration the physical aspects of language teaching, the emotional aspects, as well as the social relationships. A more detailed definition of classroom management includes that classroom management refers to the ways in which students' behavior, movement, and interaction during a lesson are organized and controlled by the teacher to enable teaching to take place most effectively. So, the goal of classroom management is to make the process of teaching happens most effectively. So we can say that the goal of classroom management is effective teaching. How can we achieve effective teaching? By management of students' behavior and movement inside the classroom, the students' interaction, students' organization, and how the teacher controls all these factors in order to achieve successful teaching and learning. Good managerial skills on the part of the teacher are an essential component of good teaching. A well-managed class, discipline problems are few, and learners are actively engaged in learning tasks and activities. So, it's very important for the teacher to have the skill of classroom management. What is required from the teacher or what are the characteristics of a lesson with a good classroom management? Number one, discipline problems are few, which means that we don't have a lot of behavioral problems or let us say, distractors in the classroom. Dealing with students' behavior is a very important topic. That's why we might specify a lecture or part of a lecture in our coming lectures in relation to dealing with students' behavior or discipline in the classroom. Another important condition which is used to describe the well-managed classroom is that students are actively engaged in learning tasks and activities. Actually, this is very important. Students' engagement in learning, especially we are teaching English in Iraq according to the communicative approach, which is a learner-centered approach in which the focus should be on learners, and learners are supposed to participate actively most of the time specified for the activities. That's why first you should work on controlling students' behavior. Second, you should work on motivating the students to participate in the activities by using different strategies like planning the lesson in a way that directs students' participation, make the students practice interesting activities, make a good relationship with the students in order to encourage them and motivate them to participate in the activities. Also, we can increase the students' participation by organizing the students into pairs or groups that who work together in certain language activities. So the lesson, which is conducted with a well classroom management skills, is a structured lesson in which we have a particular structure. A lesson reflects the concept of structuring when teachers' intentions are clear and instructional activities are sequenced according to a logic. In this case, number one, the teacher's intentions are clear. This means that the students know what the teacher is doing and why he is doing these activities. Also, they understand the objectives of each activity and what is required from them to be done. So, when the students understand what the teacher is doing and what he wants them to do and why, this is very important in providing an organized and structured lesson. In addition to this, it is important to know the sequence of activities, and the way activities are organized or the sequence in which the activities are organized should be depending on logic. Strategies of successful classroom management. We mentioned that in the classroom we have an environment. This environment is physical environment and emotional environment. The teacher should be concerned with both the physical and emotional environment in the classroom. Now I'm going to start with the physical environment and what should be, let us say, taken into consideration in relation to this idea. Teachers should be concerned with the physical environment as well as the emotional environment. First, we start with the physical environment, which includes time and place in the classroom. In order to establish dynamic strategies in the area of classroom management, you have to be in charge of your students, the space around them, the time allotted for your content area or areas, and how you use it. So first, as a teacher, you are responsible for management of the place in which the students are practicing activities and also the time specified for these activities and the materials needed so that everyone in your class is effectively learning. There definitely is a link between how well managed your classroom is and how much your students achieve. So, successful management of the classroom is very important and it is directly related to students' achievement, which is the goal of the teacher. Or teacher's goal should be developing or helping students to achieve knowledge and learning. That's why we should be concerned with the space and time of the classroom. First, we have space management in the classroom. Space management is a process in which teachers order their classroom to be comfortable, cheery, encouraging, and suitable for their students. So, you should work as much as possible on making the class a comfortable place for your study. Unfortunately, this is not possible all the time. Yani we might be obliged to teach in difficult atmosphere in old buildings with large number of students. So we are talking about such principles and such strategies in a way that we can implement them as much as we can. Sometimes we can do nothing about the place in which we are teaching. That's why you can work on management of a place to the extent that you can change things. So it's not that the distribution of student setting has a vital role in educational process. For example, this is something that we can control. We can organize the distribution of students, the way students are arranged in the class. Comfortable space means wide access to information for the whole class to do various tasks easily, smooth transition of students inside the class, and a good cooperation among students themselves. So, if we can achieve successful place arrangement, such factors can be achieved. The students can move easily, they can practice different activities easily, they can make transition from one activity to the other easily. Also, they can change the type of organization from paid work to group work easily. So if this is possible, it's much better for the students. Students learn best in environments that permit movement, giving accessibility to learning tools and promoting students' thinking and creativity. For example, it's better that all the students can see the board, all the students can see the teacher. They can and have eye contact with the teacher when the teacher is explaining the material. All the students can listen to the audio equally so that they can understand and practice the activity successfully. Good teachers design classrooms to foster collaboration and establish a sense of belonging in students. Students gain knowledge readily when the schoolroom transmits warmth, beauty, and promotes harmony. We mentioned or we refer to this point that the students feel comfortable if the place is comfortable and also the relationship between the teacher and the students and among the students is a successful social relationship. Students in the front and center are more likely to participate and be called on by the teacher. Sometimes we have certain students who need help in language learning. So we try to make them sit in the front in order to be helped by the teacher most of the time to the teacher helps them to implement the activities correctly and learn effectively. Therefore, well-planned seating arrangements and the placement of students who need help maintaining their focus in the front and center of the seating arrangement encourage these students to pay attention and participate. So we can encourage students who need help by making them sit in the front and the center. A well-designed space classroom is strategically important for teacher and student movement. Of course, movement inside the classroom. Sometimes the students need to write on the board. Sometimes they need to act certain any activities. Sometimes we have language games, especially in the communicative or according to the communicative approach. We have language games, we have conversations, we have certain activities that require group work. That's why the students need movement. It supports classroom procedures for individual and group instructions, facilitates the teacher's effort to make contact with individual students while teaching the whole class. So it's very important that the teacher can see all the students and the students can see the teacher and the board. Consider individual needs of students and foster a sense of security, minimizing distractions and encourages increased time on task. So in this case, when the teacher can see the students all the time equally, the teacher can help the students who need help and also can minimize distractions and the any unacceptable behavior which is done by the students, and the tasks will be managed and implemented within the time specified in the plan. As we have mentioned in our previous lecture in relation to the plan that we should plan the time of in our plan we should mention the time which is specified for each activity. That's why the teacher and the students should work. Moreover, it makes the students feel they have equal access to the teacher and allows the students easy access to materials. The last point related to space management or management of the space of the classroom is that spoken language is about people talking to each other. You should be prepared to rearrange the desk so that it's easier and more natural for the students to see and talk to each other. So, especially in group work, the students are supposed to be divided into groups in a way that the students can see each other while making the conversation. And this is possible. I have observed this in many lessons and different schools in our city while observing our students, and this is possible. Even the students are divided into groups and they know the member of each group. That's why it is easy to make the students do this. The other important point that should be taken into consideration is management of the time in the classroom, or the management of the time of the lesson. Teachers have to be in charge of the students' time allotted for the content areas and how they use it so that everyone in the class is effectively learning. Actually, this is another time in which I mention this part because it is important. It's the teacher's responsibility to make use of each, let us say, moment of time of the lesson in achieving the goal, which is students' achievement by effective learning. What's meant by time management? It means the maximum use of time for the productivity and achievement. We mean students' productivity and achievement. It is concerned with the management of schedules of work with advanced planning, organizing and implementation in order to achieve the aims and objectives of the lesson. In this case, the first idea, we should specify the objectives and how these objectives should be achieved. After this, we should arrange a time schedule. We should have planning, organization, and implementation of this plan and organization during the lesson. This implementation should be successful in a way that each activity is finished with the specified time in the plan. For both teachers and their students, a good time management is a crucial factor by which they perform different tasks and goals perfectly. Thus, a good time manipulation means a perfect achievement to the various targets of teaching process. In order to achieve our goals, in order to achieve our objectives, we should have good time management. Successful time management is the skill that helps students to prioritize tasks and accurately judge the amount of time needed to complete them. It helps them to complete activities in a timely fashion and learn to manage and stick to a schedule. Time management often involves children monitoring their own efforts. This means that time management is a shared responsibility. First, the teacher should provide good planning and good organization. The teacher should work on covering the activities within the time specified. At the same time, it's the teacher's task to make the students know that they are responsible for, let us say, doing the activity within a specific time. That's why they should be stick to the time specified and not spend more than this time. This is very useful for the teacher and the students. In order to do this, the teacher can think about phase what will our students be doing and how long will it take them to complete a task. We should think about this and we should mention this in the plan and try to implement the plan successfully. The attempt should be by the teacher as well as the students. These are things you should determine before you and your students enter the classroom. Tell the students about it. This means that the teacher should communicate with the students about the goals or the objectives of the lesson. So at the beginning, the students know what are the objectives of the lesson and then how can they be achieved and the time that they should spend in each activity. Hold the questions. The teacher should tell the students to save the questions until the end of the class and after the explanation and after they cover the activities, the students might be given few minutes of the lesson for answering questions. Give directions. Give the students instructions at the start of each activity to make sure they know what your expectations are for both their actions and the time it should take. In this case, we mentioned that it is very important to tell the students what is required from them. At the same time, what is the time limit in which they can do what is required from them. Another important idea which is related to classroom management is giving instructions. This is very important, the way you give your students instructions. Instructions need to be given to the class before starting any activity so that the students can understand what is required from them. The students know what they are going to do, how the activity is to be organized, and why they are going to do it. This is very important. Also, it's very important to give the students instructions clearly and quickly so that they understand it. If the students don't understand what is required from them, they will be confused and they will lose the time in the attempt to know what is required from them and what they should do. That's why they should understand it clearly. Your language should be very clear and direct in giving the students instructions. You can use imperative forms because they work well and they utilize the base form of the verb and more readily understood. So you can use the imperative forms like listen to me, uh, listen and repeat, now work in pairs, or now I want you to work in groups. In this activity, you should work in groups. So at the beginning of the activity, you should give them an idea about what is required from them. Another important idea in successful classroom management, good planning. So good planning, we talked about planning in our previous lecture, but good planning is one of the conditions of successful classroom management. Good planning or carefully and clearly organized lesson makes for purposeful and orderly process. The plan should include the use of variety of procedures and assignments and debates in order to maintain students' interest in learning. Also, the plan should include clear instruction about the objectives, the activities, the time specified for these activities, the organization of students' work. Thank you very much. That's all for our lecture today.